All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another fantasy baseball edition of the Turnbuckle Sports Network podcast. Here are your hosts, Matt Hewitt, myself, alongside my brother, Steve Mutsu. And we have a very special guest with us here today. We have our buddy Chris Baud here with us, or Chris Baud. Sorry, I said it wrong again. The managing director, managing editor, if you will, for Deadspin.com. Chris is a fantasy baseball expert. We're excited to have you on the show, Chris. Welcome.
Hey, how you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Doing great, man. So basically, what we're going to talk about today is that we're doing some, Imagine Sports tutorial videos, if you will, trying to promote the site, trying to attract more players and try to help new players and existing players as far as, beginning stuff, advanced stuff, tips, tricks, what Steve would do. And we're going to talk a little bit today about what you would do too. So basically my first question for you, Chris, is going to be, how long have you been playing fantasy baseball on Imagine Sports?
Well, I go back to the beginning actually. And I started in this type of game with the old Bill James Classic Baseball, which was in like the 1990s, and it was like so primitive, like compared to like you can't imagine. Like you would.
Did you play it through the mail like I did?
Yeah, and like
holy moly,
you would have to like call in and say like, hey, I'm dropping Fred Luteris for Tony Perez, or whatever,
talk to Dan Ford
settings, and and like. We had no information in those days. It was just like all guesswork. And like we didn't have defensive ratings or like anything. We just kind of had to figure things out as we went along.
Wow.
And then so I was there at the beginning when the game became like it was like whatever ESPN, right? And then it became
Rob Nair.
IS, whatever it was called. I forget what it was called before originally, right? It was
Gymnasium.
When Dane took it over and stuff like that. But I took a long break. I didn't play for probably like 12 years. And I just started playing again last year, and like it's been kind of like nonstop. I've been running like 5, 6, 8 teams at a time ever since like a year and a half ago. So yeah.
Awesome. So what do you think of Imagine Sports in the last year or so you've been playing? You must like it a lot if you're managing 5 to 8 teams at the same time.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm bored. Like been in lockdown a lot of the time, right? So like I was looking for new avenues of entertainment. And like you can, as you know, right, you can really get into it if you want. You can it can be your life. You can spend hours and hours just looking at like everything, so I probably do that a little bit too much, but
we all do. We all do. We just started a new year in our rookie base progression league that me and Steve are in, and I probably spent about 2 or 3 hours just scouting players one night. But it's fun. It's stuff that I like to do, and I was able to kind of preload some draft picks. Got most of the ones that I put on there, and so you can definitely put a lot of time in this, and the more time you put in, obviously, the more effective that you'll be. So, while talking about that, so Chris, what's more important to you when you're drafting a team? Pitching, position players? Is there a particular focus you like to do? Tell us about that.
Well, I kind of tend to have balanced teams. I only actually look at the I know it's not like I allocate like 60 million for hitting and 40 million for pitching, or it just kind of ends up in the like 65, 70 million for hitting range, just like naturally. Most of my teams, unless like I want to do something like I run around like like Bob Gibson and Wilbur Wood on a team, so then the pitching gets a little bit more, but generally I'm balanced. I like to have basically I like to have hitters that do everything. I want guys who hit, who play defense and run. And that's like, obviously it's not always possible. You have to make compromises here and there, and you have like cheap platoon players, but that's the basic idea.
Is there any positions you will go, you will overlook defense on at all?
Actually, a lot of times, it'll be second base or shortstop, which is kind of.
I do the same thing as well. Second base or shortstop. That's the place to go.
Right. It's counterintuitive to how you think baseball works, right? But there's a couple of factors there, right? One is that the good fielding shortstops are obviously just, everyone wants them and they're overpriced, I think. And so like your values at that position are often in like the guys who are hitters. And like I had one team where like it was I was inspired by Kravitz, because he did a Hans Lobert team. He's like a fair rated shortstop, and they said, okay, I'll try this. And like I actually don't know how it happened, but I had a Lobert team and it totally dominated the league in like defense, pitching, hits allowed, like all of those things.
On those middle infield positions, I don't mind going low on the range, but the fielding percentage, I can't have a bad fielding percentage in the middle infield. That can get out of hand.
Yeah, I know. I know what you mean. But like I thought that was like crazy, right? It just seems like how do I have the best like defensive efficiency with like a bad fielding shortstop, you know? And I don't really have an answer. I think it's like some kind of like my other fielders were good, not great. I guess it had to do with the pitchers I had and the park, but I'm not really sure. But I think it goes to show that you don't have to have like the wall-to-wall outstanding defense to have a good defensive team.
Yeah, and another thing with those infielders, when they don't get to a ball, it's not a triple, you know? I mean, when a third baseman misses it, that is a triple. When you need the range at third, that's at least what I believe. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the good fielders at third and first and in the outfield. Like I will definitely I'll definitely go for like some occasionally bad fielder in left or something, or an average fielder in right. But if it's an average fielder in right, it's always going to be someone who throws.
Yeah, they got to have an arm in right. But what about catcher?
I like catcher defense. Like I mean, I'll say that, granted, I won a World Series with Blefary as my main catcher, right? And he had a ton of stolen bases and pass balls, but it was fun. But I do like the throwers behind the plate too. Like right, especially in this cycle in standard. So like Ricky Henderson is one of the best values in the game right now, I think. Because
I'm about to get him in a couple of seasons in our progression. He's coming up for me.
It's like
I have the Oakland A's. I'm ready.
Yeah, I've used Ricky when he was like around 19 million. I thought he was a great value. It's like I think he's easily worth 20 million or more. So like at 17 million is just absurd. So like he's going to be picked in every league. Not only is he going to be picked in every league, like two people are going to pick him, right? So that's like two teams that are attempting to build like a fast running team. So like this actually happened to me where like I tried to draft Ricky, I didn't get him, and I had like this like Busch Stadium team, you know, with no power hitters. So like I had to adjust. I went with picked up Eddie Collins as my main guy. But anyway, so like the we're in a period where I think there's more running than usual. So I really like Mickey Cochran right now, who's I think he's like at near an all-time low salary.
I'm okay with average throwing it. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
The average throwing, I'm okay, or even worse, or the fielding. I don't even look at that. I don't know if you look at that at all, like his range or anything at catcher. I don't look at that at all. But the pass balls, that can get you. You have to pay attention to that. Pass balls can get you. If it's a bad number, that you gotta watch out for that. You don't want to see a 9 or anything.
No, I agree. But like I said, I had a team with Bleffery. It was like he was like a 9. I think that team had 32 pass balls.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for that.
But no, I do think I think that even in leagues where people aren't running a lot, you're still gonna have, like, you look at the team totals for like steals and caught stealings, and like you still I feel like you still have a range of like 8 to 10 runs from top to bottom, right? And that's pretty significant. It's kind of like an undervalued attribute, I think.
And a lot of guys, they don't even try to run at all. You see a lot of 0-0 stolen bases.
Yeah,
you see that. So when you're playing those kind of teams, you definitely really need to worry about that pass ball, because that's the only way they're going to second. A lot of people like me, I don't even try to run.
Yeah, I probably run more than most, but I have teams where I don't run at all, But I build a lot of teams. I'm really into base running speed more than stolen base ability. Because I just feel like you look at the guys who run, especially the guys who run excellent, like those are guys, and you look them up, and if you give them a certain value for their running speed, then they're really good values, I think.
Yeah. What do you think that is? I usually do 3 runs per level. Just an easy number. I don't know if it's 100% right, but it sure is easy.
Yeah, I think that's close. I think there's actually the excellent runners. I think it's actually like another 5 runs at that band, because I've just noticed in observation, watching games, like those guys do things that no one else does, like kind of absurd things. Like they're on second base and there's a ground ball to third, and they go to third. Like that's kind of insane. I
haven't really noticed that. That's something for me to look at.
Essentially a stolen base, but I've never seen anyone who wasn't. I've never seen a VG runner do that. It's only like, yeah. And I've kind of done some math on it, but it's like when you look at the league totals where the teams exceed their runs created expectations, right? And it definitely seems like especially when I look at my teams that have a lot of fast runners, like those teams seem to exceed their runs created by a lot, and it could be like 80 runs.
What would you set an excellent runner at? Like, do you set it at 3, 2, 1? What do you set that at for base running?
Oh, for the managerial settings?
Yeah.
I usually just leave them at 3.
That's what I do too.
I turn it down because I don't ever want to see anyone run into an out. I almost never see it when I watch pay-per-view, because I keep it at 4 or 5 a lot, and they never run into. It's probably why I never seen that guy go to third. Like, that's probably why.
Yeah. Like I do. I'm actually kind of conservative with them, because like and if I have like a guy hitting in front of a big home run hitter, I'll put him at 4. But I had a team that was like, I won the World Series. It was in the Astrodome, and there's like no power hitters. So I had him running pretty aggressively, it's because it's such a low run environment.
Yeah, you have to do when you play in those kind of environments. You do have to take a chance. You have to get some runs, because where I play, runs are going to happen. But in Astrodome, it's not the same way.
Yeah. Well, like I either play in like my teams are either like it's like Astrodome or like Braves Field 14 or like Baker Bowl.
Oh yeah,
So
I love Baker Bowl. Baker Bowl's fun.
I love Baker Bowl. I think the thing with Baker Bowl is that it messes up the other teams more than your own, because like no one is prepared to have like their ace pitcher knocked out in the fourth inning.
No, they're not. That's what Coors does for me too. They're just not prepared for the. That's why I like the Giant pitching staff and the deep lineup. I want my ninth hitter to be good too. I want to just crush them in Coors.
Yeah, that was kind of like the Astrodome team I had, where like I don't have any real superstar hitters, but it's like a deep lineup. I have like it was like Pete Reeser, Jimmy Barrett, Dahigo, Elberfield at short, King Kelly. King Kelly was my favorite player last cycle.
I like King Kelly,
and
he's a good player.
Like my I had a cheap platoon at first, and my second I picked up Chase. And the other, if my pitcher is hit, and that's the other thing I definitely emphasize, way overemphasize, is pitchers who can hit and non-DH leagues.
Yeah, I've done that before. I like that. That's fun.
Yeah, it is. I got a question for you, Chris. What are some leagues that you would recommend, maybe a beginner player on the site and also maybe an advanced player? I don't know how many different types of leagues that you're in, but are there any that you can think of that you would make suggestions for maybe new and advanced players?
Well, mostly I play standard. I've been dabbling in the SSG leagues, in like limited player pool leagues, like one, and they're a lot of fun. If you like to, I would say if you like to micromanage and you like to make a lot of transactions, those leagues are great. Because I do like a crazy amount of transactions in those leagues.
Have you tried a progression single season league?
I haven't. I'm kind of interested. There was a couple I saw posted and I was interested, but
they're really fun.
Yeah, like the one of the leagues on the SSG. There's one I've been in. It was like you pick a franchise and you get like 20 years of that team. So I got the it started with the 20 to 39 Philadelphia A's. And then it became the 40 to 59 Philadelphia Kansas City A's, and now we're on this 60 79 Kansas City Oakland A's. And that's been a lot of fun.
And we're going season by season. Like right now, what are we in? 78?
We're at 77 right now.
77?
Yeah, I would be interested in that, especially if it's kind of close to modernish, like 70s, 80s.
What's cool about them, there's a lot of trades and trading draft picks and a lot of other. There's not just a game. When you're in this league, there's not just the normal game that you're going to play in a standard league, but there's also the off season. We like everybody will post who's available. Maybe you don't have enough money because we only have a $130 million cap. And some of these teams get people. I just picked up in a different league, Carl Crawford for a draft pick, and he was $17 million. So you can do a lot of stuff like that. I really like that aspect of this league, to where we're the general manager and the manager, and had total control.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I would be interested in doing that.
Well, once again, we're speaking with Chris from Deadspin.com here on the Turnbuckle Sports Network. Chris, another question for you, my man. Do you have any key tips that you would give somebody fresh to the site, somebody who's just starting to play fantasy baseball? Are there a few key pointers that you would give a total noob coming in to playing in leagues against some guys like us?
For like a standard league?
Yeah.
Classic? Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I guess the obvious thing is, I think everyone would say this, is that defense is more important than you think it is. Even at first base, where people just tend to not think it's that important.
I honestly made that mistake in my early stages. I've been playing on the site for a little over a year now, and that's not something I paid attention to for the longest time, until Steve was like, "What are you doing, man? This guy's terrible at defense." And as soon as I started to pay close attention to that, especially when I'm drafting, not just looking offensively, I started to win a lot more games. So that's a huge point there for sure.
Yeah, it helps when you get fair 179 Robin Yount out of the lineup, because that ain't working.
Yeah. He doesn't get good to about 82. I was able to pick him number 1 in the draft. The progression league that we started in, Chris, started in 73 when the DH came into play. And so we're about 4 years in now. And I was able to draft him, 75, I think, when he was a rookie, and haven't really been able to use him for the last 2 or 3 seasons at all.
He was 17 years old when he started. Takes him a while. I mean, his whole minor league career is played out for the Brewers.
Yeah. But yeah, I think if you look at the the guys when they're like in a cheaper price range, like Bill Terry or Hernandez, and right now like Todd Helton, when they're in like the cheaper end of their salary cycle, like those guys are on World Series teams all the time, like all the freaking time. And it'll be like the best owners in the league will like draft them first. And they're just invaluable.
Another thing about first base defense, the number isn't as important at first base. You don't have to worry so much if it's a 130. It's just they don't make that much errors anyway. You can live with a very good 130 at first base, as you just can't at shortstop.
Yeah, I like Lou Blue a lot. I don't know why.
Lou Blue too.
I don't know why he's not used more, honestly. But he's like
lots of walks.
He's a VG 111, and like he runs well, and he's like a good on base guy, switch hitter.
That's one thing I messed up on my guy. I didn't mention on base percentage one time. And like that's the main thing I worry about. I didn't even say the word. I don't think.
We're gonna make a whole entire episode on that because I think it's really important. Might be one of the most important things to look at as far as stats on the fantasy baseball for sure.
And as for like an advanced tip, I feel like obviously the SimStats database is incredible, right? It's invaluable. You could go your entire life playing this game and just use that and just assume it's the Bible, right? But there are guys who like you can really, if you dig in, like, you know, some of the guys, like their stats are misleading, you know?
Is it the guys who like say maybe Jose Cruz or something and it always ends up in the Astrodome? Is that the guys that stats get bad?
Yeah, I think that definitely happens. I think it's more in this specific. There's two guys we'll talk about. Is like, I think if you read the boards, I talk about them a lot. And one is Pete Alexander. Another's Bob Gibson, right? And these are guys who are clearly, obviously, like these are guys who are all-time greats, right? And so, like when I came back last year, started playing again, it was like, why is Pete Alexander like only, I don't know, 12 million or something, right? Compared to whoever else is in that price range, like Harry Buchanan or I don't know.
I think Gaylord Perry's are on there, ain't he?
Yeah. And I would talk about it, and people are like, no, he's just not that good. I have a database. He's like the 60th in ERA for pitchers over 10, whatever, you know. I'm like, I would say, like, that doesn't make sense. Like, how, like, he's like a top 10 pitcher all time, right? And the same thing with Gibson, who's considered disappointing by most people. And someone pointed out that like John Tudor in that range is much better, right? And so you guys are Cardinals fans. I'm sure you'll agree. As great as Tudor was, right? He's not Bob Gibson.
He is not Bob Gibson.
No, not even close.
He's not Adam Wainwright either.
Yeah, I dug into it a little bit, and I'm looking, you know, at Bob Gibson's teams, and it's like he's like 16-16 with a 3.6 ERA 1 year, and it's like, oh yeah, that doesn't look great. But then you look at the team and it's like they only won 70 games, and he's on a team with like, I don't know, Tom Seaver, and Seaver has a 3.9 ERA, right? So you look at it and like, well, actually, that's a pretty good year for Gibson, right? And then I'm looking at Tudor's teams, and it's a very good veteran owner. And the team won 100 games and has like lights out defense at every position, right? And this isn't a small effect, right? And I'm looking at their top, I'm looking at like 20, 15, 20 teams for each pitcher. And like Tudor's teams are like legitimately like 12 games better on average. You know, they're winning 95 games and Gibson's teams are like 81, 82. So that has an enormous impact, right?
Why do you think that is? Is it because of like a preconceived bias with Bob Gibson that seems like we've had for a long time, that it's because of the era he pitched in? But I don't see how that would affect Alexander. So what do you think it is? What do you think makes that happen?
I think at whatever point in the history of the database, it might be going back to the days of DL fans. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember I used to write all those articles for DL fans all the time.
Yeah. So like at some point, it's like the veteran owners decided that like there's this whatever small data set you have is like, oh well, like Gibson isn't that great, you know.
So it's basically a Danny McFadden effect, because remember him?
Yeah.
And like only the good owners used him.
So his stats were great, right?
His stats were great, yeah. And then
and that definitely happens in still with like I swear there's guys like Travis Wood and Jaime Garcia, like their stats look great, and I'm sure they're great, and when they're at their previous price, when they were 3.5 million, their obvious values, right? They're probably not as good as it looks, because it was all the it was like the veteran owners who jumped on them right away last year, you know. Yeah. And would know to like draft them in the first round, because like everyone wants them. It was like you gotta have Travis Wood or Brian Wilson or Jaime Garcia, right? Those guys. I mean, you don't play standard, but like that's how it was.
This also happens. Like, do you remember what Johnny Bench would get picked by
Julia?
Over and over and over, and she didn't do very well, and so Johnny Bench probably looks worse than he should. I don't know, maybe not with Johnny Bench, but I think bad owner picking somebody.
I think there's less impact on hitters from the owners. Although if they're just playing him in like bad parks, then sure. But with like the pitchers, it's like you're talking about a lot of variables. It's the owner's skill, and it's the parks he pitch in, and the defense, right? Like I looked at I posted this the other day on the board. I looked at Alexander, and like his 5 most used parks are like, they were all like Columbia, Baker Bowl, Veteran Stadium, and like really good hitters parks, right? So I used Alexander like 5 or 6 times like last year, and he had one mediocre season, and he was just like lights out the others. They're all like pitches 340 innings and wins 24 games, and top 5 in ERA, stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't know. You can't convince. I mean, we're all subject to like small sample size biases, but like, I mean, you can't convince me that he's not the best pitcher in that price range.
Some of these stats for the relievers can really get skewed once you see somebody like I'll only use certain like left-handers or whatever in the right spots. I'm not gonna, and I think some left-handers especially get overpriced because people use them right, and then their stats look crazy good, and their prices go up, and then price themselves right out of usefulness.
Yeah, I'm big on like focusing on guys whose prices go down. I'm sure like everyone does that, but
yeah, thanks to that one guy that posted on the boards, starts with a K, that guy.
Oh yeah,
he's really good about that.
Yeah, that guy's great.
I mean, if it wasn't for that guy, we would have a lot. People would be a lot worse because he really gives a lot of information to us.
Ed Koziarski or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if he knows how often all of us look at that. I mean, I've been looking at it all the time, but I don't usually comment on it. I wonder if he knows how important that is to us.
Well, hopefully he listens to the hopefully he listens to the podcast and checks us out, and he'll know after this great interview with Chris today.
Because if he didn't post it, I'd be like, "Where's that at? Come on, dude! What are you doing? You're slacking. Let's go. I need this information."
Yeah. So like there's this on the advice board. This guy Tyler Enzer, who's like a new owner, but he's tremendous.
Yeah, we've actually been talking to him because his story. I really want to talk to that guy. I really want to know, like, how he does everything he does.
Yeah, he's a tremendous player already. And he was asking about if you should take Mordecai Brown or Babe Adams. I said Pete Alexander, no, like hands down. And of course, like people were arguing about this, but this is a case where these guys are like essentially contemporaries. They're all like early 19th century, or like 20th century pitchers, right? And Alexander is just clearly better. You know, you look at their careers and others, there's just no way that like he's not the best of these three. And I said that, like, you know, it's not like Charles didn't sing in the IS office somewhere. It's like, you know what, we're gonna just like make Alexander worse, just randomly, and they're like, yeah, sure, go for it, it'll be fun. You know, so like I mean, I said like it ultimately it doesn't matter because like these are all good pitchers. You can pick any random $12 million pitcher and they'll probably be great for you, right?
Yeah, that's what I believe. That I believe all those expensive pitchers are you're gonna be all right.
Yeah, so like we're not talking about, this isn't like some huge edge here, you know, but like I don't know, I don't see how Alexander's not the best pitcher in that group. I said, like, you know, if I'm correct, and he's actually like a $15 million pitcher, then like over 10 seasons probably gets me like a couple wins over you taking Babe Adams. You know, it's like no big deal. But like the game is all about the small edges, right? And that's yes. Like baseball in general is just like grinding these tiny edges. I play poker, so by the way, and it's kind of the same thing. It's you're just exerting the tiniest advantage over a 162 game season.
I was talking to Matt about that today. I was telling him, like, in most leagues, I don't have to like look at the stats so close. But if I was playing with in a league with you and a bunch of other guys exactly like you, I would really have to buckle down and make more refined decisions. I couldn't just wing it like I do a lot of the time.
Yeah. There's definitely like teams where like it's like, yeah, I'm just like messing around. I want to try out something, you know. I want to put J.R. Richard in the Astrodome and see if he can have a good season, you know, or whatever. But but yeah, like the really tough leagues, there's like no end to like what I'll do to like where like I'm serious. Like I don't recommend this, but like I will like series to series, like if this guy has like Andre Dawson and Jesse Barf funny stuff down, right? And then like change it to next series. Or like one thing I do, which is pretty reasonable, I think. Like in preseason, I basically design my pitching staff around the division. You know, if there's like a lot of right-handed hitters, or if there's a lot of left-handed hitters, not totally, not always, but like the bottom, like my number 3, 4 starters and stuff like that. I'll do that. And if it's like a really bad environment for one of my top pitchers, and I'll change them too. You know,
I'll do a lot of changes preseason, a lot.
Yeah.
If you could tell who's working hard by looking at the transaction page preseason, you'll see me. It'll be like a block. I'll make a lot of moves.
Yeah, I make a million moves. I'm this one like it's so tough. It has like all the top players. It's like, and like I don't consider myself like one of the top players. There's like so many owners that are better than me that I've been like Philip Parker and Brett 390 is one. I've been in a couple leagues with him and he just crushed me. The What's My ID, Alan Hertzberg. But those guys and a couple other guys like that. I think the Ed Koziarski is in the league too. So it really has like 8 of the top like 20 max score guys, right? So preseason, like every time I make moves, it's like I would drop this guy and one of these other guys would pick him up, and they would drop someone and I would pick them up. It happened like 10 times. It was kind of hilarious. And these are like mostly these are like 500K players.
Yeah,
20, but it kept making me nervous. So like I just dropped Daryl Thomas, like he's no big deal, but then like Philip Parker picks him up. I'm like, oh, that was probably a mistake.
And it makes you second guess yourself. You're like, wait a minute, should I have done that? Oh man, but
yeah, like
it happens a lot.
We swapped we must have swapped like 20 like 500 to 800K players.
Well, here's the last thing that and Chris, thanks again, man, for giving us so much of your time today. This is the something I was looking forward to you and Steve discussing because I saw your guys' interaction on the board recently. Right-handers versus left-handers. Steve is a synonymous right-hander guy, and it seems like you're more of a left-hander guy. I want to hear you guys talk about this, the advantages of right-handers versus left-handers for a little bit, and then we'll kind of call it a day. We're already at 30 minutes, so Chris from Deadspin.com, thanks so much for joining us today. I want to hear this battle between you two experts of right-handers versus left-handers. So Steve, why don't you start and just kind of basically describe your philosophy about right-handers versus left-handers, and we'll let Chris do the same.
All right. This is why right-handers are better. There's more of them. They're cheaper. You can always find the guy you need. What I want, I will get. If I need a cheap second baseman that hits right-handers better, that's what I'm looking for always. I'll find him. They're not out overpriced, and the splits aren't so bad. Left-handers, they have that split problem.
Okay, I will. So there's something I'm misunderstanding. Cause like I forgot that you're basically an SSG player, right? And high cap player. So like I think an SSG is a totally different thing because you can always find like right-handers who hit right-handers better, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty easy thing to do.
It's much more common. So I think in I can see that being a very good strategy in SSG. I remember when you first posted that your players were all going to be right-handed. I thought you were just doing it to like.
I did it for a year and a half, and I won more. I won so many World Series. It wasn't even funny. I was just destroying everyone with that.
That's hilarious. But like,
what was really funny about it is everybody thought that I was doing it because remember, Matt, I was just acting a fool on the message board, and I was like, I'm gonna put a hand behind my back, blah blah blah. That's not what I was thinking. I was thinking I'm going to crush you guys. That's the plan.
Yeah. So like I think that would be harder to do on standard, don't you? Like I don't know.
It's harder to do on standard, but I have done it on standard too. But you're right, it's way harder. I've seen
some teams do it. Actually, I think Philip Parker has done it. But I will say this: if I'm in the division and one of the teams has like all right-handed pitchers, I love it because if there's not that many lefties in the division. Because I'm gonna go balls out for like the Johnny Callsons and the Eric Chavez's of the world, Chavez has gone up a little bit, but like, you know, those type of guys, like the Eddie Milners, because they're just good. They're just like incredible values if they're just not seeing lefties, right?
So there is a big problem with this all right-handed thing in the SSG. Most people don't do this, but Circle Change, do you know him?
No.
He's a good owner. I forget what his real name is right now, but his username is Circle Change. He's real good. He signed a 500K pitcher that with like 190 innings, right? But he destroyed righties, couldn't get a lefty out. It was like a 120 OPS against versus lefties, but it was like a 6 against righties. And he kept bringing him up and facing him against me and crushing me with that. If people did that, I would just lose every game. But most people do the opposite, you know? They don't do that.
That's I could see that being a thing in SSG. But yeah, like in general, so we found some, I forget who it was, but I posited this theory on the board that left-handed pitchers perform better relative to their ERC. I don't even remember what that stands for, but it's their estimated earned run average, right?
Yeah, I don't know what that stands for either, honestly.
But the left-handers as a group perform better than right-hand pitchers. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that the lefty pitchers are more likely to hold runners on base better. And also, I think, I haven't proved this, but I suppose it's because they face more right-handed hitters, and right-handed hitters hit into more ground ball double plays. So
that's
interesting.
Point.
And maybe the reason why I don't have much problem is because I don't run anyway, so the whole hold thing don't even make no difference to me, you know?
That's true. It's like it's a strength that they can't utilize against you.
Yeah, they can't use that one.
Yeah, but so yeah, like I tend to, like, I almost never have overly righty lineups because it's true. Like you look at the right-handed hitters just have like high double play rates than left-handed hitters. And I usually have a couple platoons and like usually have like the as best people do, like the lefty is going to be better because he's just playing more often. But sometimes I do, if there's a lot of lefties, I'll go the other way. And because like those guys, like the Jason Bartlett's and Brian Jordan's, those guys are.
Brian Jordan's a monster.
Yeah. Extremely valuable if you're going to see like 40% lefties, those guys are like outrageous. They're like $9 million players for $5 million, right?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, Chris, it's been awesome having you on the show, man. Thank you so much for being our very first guest here on our fantasy baseball edition of the Turnbuckle Sports Network. And once again, everybody, please do check Chris out on deadspin.com. Chris is a great writer. He's got a lot of really great articles. I just read your most recent one earlier today about the Pearl Jam 10 being named for Mookie Blaylock. Great article. There's a lot of really great stuff. Please visit deadspin.com and check out Chris on there for sure. And so it's been great having you on. Chris, you want to come on and do this again with us someday?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, man. I learned a lot by listening to the both of you guys today on the podcast, but, you know, we're about at 45 minutes. Chris, you've been an excellent guest. We'll have you back on someday. And so we'll go ahead and say adios for the Turnbuckle Sports Network podcast. Thanks, Chris. Bye-bye, man.
All right.